Okay, so I'm going to do this video because it is something that I think is important. I talk often, be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. I talk often about a lot of different things, and some of the things that surprise people, especially about me, there's a few things, but there's certain things that surprise people about me that there are people who know me very well and they understand quite a bit, right? One of them is I'm a huge introvert, right? And it's going to lead into the next part of this. But I talk about young black men and black mental health for a reason, because oftentimes we just don't go and get help or talk to people about various different issues that we may have. People think that when you talk about mental health, it's the most severe side of it, right? But that's not always the case. For some, it is. There's some people that have their traumas and different things that they have to deal with, and those require someone that's going to be able to help them work through that. Other people, they just have other forms where it's they can live with it, they can manage it, but maybe they're not managing it as well as they possibly could, so it affects other things. But I'm going to get into that in a second. I'm a huge introvert. For some people, they're like, how? That's not true. How are you an introvert? I even have friends where I tell them, yeah, I'm an introvert. No, you're not. But it is. How can someone be an introvert and be on YouTube and different things like that and conduct business and all of that? It's easy when it comes to this, because all I'm looking at is a phone or a camera, and I'm not looking at hundreds or thousands of people. It's easy to do. Michael Jackson, by the way, had severe social anxiety, and yet he was able to go on stage in front of thousands of people, and it wasn't a big deal because that was when he was ready to go on, right? But if you notice any sort of interview, it's kind of like it's difficult for him as well as a lot of people. And so it's easy for me to do from here because I don't have other people that I have to actually interact with. That's the reason why I do these as opposed to live streams. Noelle is very comfortable with live streams as opposed to this type of format where it's a recorded video and there's no feedback back. For her, it is great. She's an extrovert. She loves conversations. She loves small talk. She loves whenever there's all these different little pieces and nuances. She can talk about something. Someone will make a comment. She'll stop, answer that comment, and go back and continue, and she'll go back and forth. And to her, it's exciting. After she's done with her live stream, she's just ready to conquer the world. She's excited. She gets all of her energy from that. Me, on the other hand, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. Like, I literally am ready to take a nap after I do that. And in fact, when it comes, and that's the reason why I don't do a lot of live streams, is because of that. When it comes to work situations, I can do it. I can, of course, it's always this you can fake it till you make it type of thing, or I can force myself into situations and deal with it. But to be honest with you, it's exhausting. There was a time when and I talk about this, I told the girls this too, because, it's important for them. We believe in communication, strengths, weaknesses, all of that. And when I was a kid, there were 3 people in our school that were the quietest kids. And I know those 2 kids by name. One of them was me, but I know those other 2 by name. This was back when I was in 2nd grade. I remember them. And throughout all of our elementary school years, middle school, and high school, we were all very quiet. Now, as I got older, I got more talkative by far. But there was a point in time when I wouldn't say anything. I still gained a lot of friends, but I really wouldn't talk much until I got to know a person, and then I talked to them a lot more. And that's kind of how I am now. I have to really, really know you and feel comfortable for me to talk to you. And then it's normal. It's a normal situation. The anxiety's not there. I can talk to you all day long about any and everything, right? Not a big deal. And there was a point in time, and so that was me being an introvert. I didn't quite understand it when I was younger. I didn't quite understand it until I became, what, 2 or 3 years ago. I'm 44. So in my 40s is when I kind of understood, like, oh, this is what this is. So in middle school, my mom and sister would want to go to the grocery store, to different stores and everything else. And I would always have to tag along when I was younger. I would always have to go, and I hated it. I hated it. My mom would go down every single aisle and check everything. I hated it. And when I was old enough, and oftentimes I would leave them and walk around and do my own thing. I would look at different things, be in my own little world, and I felt comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable necessarily walking around with them, going down every single aisle, right? I would always go to the toy section. That was my thing, right? Or I would go to the fishing and sports section because and then when there were people that would go into the aisle, I would leave and go to a different aisle. That's what it was like when I was growing up. When I got old enough to stay home by myself, which was about 12, 13, I didn't go. I didn't go to the grocery store or any store with my mom that much. I just said, yeah, I'd rather stay here, right? Just rather stay here. And so to me, I thought, yeah, just a big time introvert. That's what I thought. Probably around 23, my level of being such an introvert kind of dropped. And maybe because that was around the time of my first marriage. I don't know if that had something to do with it or what the situation was. Maybe it was because of work. I don't know what job that I was doing. But my social anxiety for me at that point was not that big. It was much more suppressed. I didn't have a problem going different places. I was always out and about. I was always, this was later on in my gallivanting days, which I couldn't even dream of today. But I would just go out to different places, go all over. Even when I was bored, one of the ways I knew Indianapolis, like the back of my hand, because my uncle lived up there for a long time. And when I moved there, I asked him, because it's a massive city, I said, how did you understand this city so well? I just got in the car one day, filled it up, drove around constantly, and now I know everything about the whole city. He had done it so much, and so I did that. There were times when I would just literally fill up the car, burn a whole tank of gas, going all over Indianapolis, and the suburbs, understanding where everything was and what it was about and this, that, and the other, how to get from here to there. I knew all the exits, and I still do. I know Indianapolis better than I do Tacoma, or better than I know Seattle to this day. Because at that point in time, I had suppressed, or it just kind of did its thing. I didn't have social anxiety like I do today. I was everywhere. Then probably, I'd say a good 7 years ago, or 8, a little bit ago, it came back. Social anxiety came back. And I didn't know what it was. I just felt like, I just don't feel like going. I don't like being around people. I'm exhausted. When I'm around a lot of people, I'm an introvert. And I was saying, I'm an introvert. That's why, which is true. And I haven't gotten an official diagnosis of having social anxiety, but just taking the little test that you do, and I'm on the extreme end of it, I'm pretty sure that that's the case. Right? It's not like it's kind of in the middle or I'm all the way in the red over on the other side. And it's so much so that even when Noelle just was talking, because the kids are on spring break, you should go do a lot of things with the kids. When you have time, take them to this place, that place, this place, that place. All of a sudden, her voice sounded cloudy to me. I was going through a panic attack just a few minutes ago. Heart racing. Felt like I had been running. I started to get out of breath. Why? Not because I'm afraid of the kids. That's not a problem. But the idea of taking one on a daddy-daughter date, the other one on another daddy-daughter date, and the other one another daddy-daughter date, it just, for some reason, I couldn't find the words. I was in there talking to them and explaining it, and Zozo was in tears. And I said, why? Because Zozo is very similar to me. And she said, I said, is it because that's how you are? And she said, yeah, there's times when Zoe, she just doesn't want to go and interact with stuff. She doesn't, the things that a lot of kids typically like to do, she's just like, eh. She's very quiet to herself. She doesn't like to make waves. She's minded her own business. She's just very nice and tolerant of people, very much like myself. And I knew that. I knew that those tears were because I'm hitting a lot of the same things that she's going through. And I'm like, I understand. I understand. I apologize to them and saying that, I understand how important it is to go and spend all this time when they're growing up and the different things that we've done and do. There's, of course, we do things all the time. We talk about us planting, pumpkin seeds and going outside and, we put it in the greenhouse, planted pumpkin seeds, me and Zara and Zeta. And then outside I was digging up the ground and Zara came out and was talking to her. And then Noelle and me and Zara and Zeta were outside planting the sunflowers and different things like that. And that's how I spend time a lot of times with the kids. We go out every now and again as a family, of course, but one-on-one out there and about, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to even go and just kind of just chill. And so I'm reading through all of what this is, and this is about mental health. There wasn't some sort of a traumatic event that I went through or anything like that whatsoever. I had, if you say on a scale of 10, 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, how was your childhood with my mom? Given it would be perfect if I had my dad in my life. My mom and dad were married for 30-something years, or 40-something years. I can't remember. And so she was pregnant with me and they were going through their divorce. But it would be perfect if my dad was there. But if you're just counting just what my mom was able to do and the type of person that she was and the foundation she gave and all of that, 10 out of 10. Had the best child. We weren't the most wealthiest, didn't have a lot of money. But damn, it was, I'm trying to live up to that to this day of how well she did. But so it's not that. It wasn't anything I went through as a kid, but from other people. It's just who I am. I've always been that way. And so it's a battle and I hate it. I hate being in that situation. But one of the things I wanted to do telling the kids this story is that they see me as this big, huge, tough guy. Some people do. When they see me in person, I'm like, dang, I don't see that. But some people do. And I'm like, I have my own weaknesses. I have my own insecurities. Believe I do. And do I like it? No. I don't like it. I hate it. I told Noelle I hate it. But it's one of those things that you got to kind of deal with. I'm a big believer in knowing what your weaknesses are. You don't let them be your limitations, because it's really a battle of fighting against that. In my circumstance, in my situation, it's fighting against that. Don't allow your social anxiety to be your weakness always. But it takes a lot of effort. And so I want to normalize the fact that, yes, as men, you can still be tough and strong and everything else, but you do have your weaknesses. You do have things that will humble you, right? Now, one of the things too, I was reading, it says for children, anxiety about interacting with adults and peers may be shown by crying, having temper tantrums, clinging to parents, and refusing to speak in social situations. Now, I remember as a kid, the first time in school being dropped off, other kids were like, yeah. First time they were doing their thing and everything, I sat there and cried. My first 3 days of school, I cried. I didn't want my mama to leave. I didn't want nothing. I was like, I'm not having it. And I thought my kids would be the same way. And I was like, we're gonna have to, and it wasn't. It's like, thank you. But I had the biggest, like, what the heck, to the point where my mom had to stay for, I think, 30 minutes there while I was there my first day, because I just couldn't deal with it. And so at the time, I didn't know what that was. I do now, right? I didn't have temper tantrums or anything like that, but trying to speak out, what's your name? I wouldn't even say it. Kids would say, what's your name? Where are you from? I just keep on walking, doing my thing, and I still kept gaining friends. I don't know. I still had a lot of friends at that time. It was weird. Then when it comes to being an adult, it says avoid situations where you might be people who suffer from social anxieties. They avoid doing things or speaking to people, and they avoid situations where they might be the center of attention. Anxiety in anticipation of feared activity or events, intense fear or anxiety during social situations, analysis of your performance, identification of flaws in your interactions after a social situation, stuff like that. There's certain parts of this that doesn't fit, but there's other parts that do fit. Yeah. So, like, for example, fear of physical symptoms that may cause you embarrassment, such as blushing, sweating, trembling, or having a shaky voice. The shaky voice is my thing. It used to be the trembling. I had to give a presentation the other day, a few weeks ago, and I talk about how I left out of there because I had other stuff to do, and I did. But a part of that, too, was just the whole social anxiety. I don't want to talk about projects that I'm doing in detail. I don't want people to ask a bunch of questions, even though that's what they're supposed to do, right? It makes sense. You got a project, we want to ask questions. We're curious about it. But for me, it's like, you'll see it when it happens, right? Don't ask me questions. You'll see it whenever it happens. I'm not that type of person where I like the center of attention like that. I just don't. For some people that's not like this, it's weird. How can you say that? You're on YouTube. But that's different. You see what I'm saying? Like, for Noelle, it's hard for her, even though she went through social work and she understands all of this. I told her it's hard for you to understand this position because for her, that's where she gets all of her energy. For me, it's exhausting. After I go through stuff like now, it's not always. It's not always where I have that staunch, I don't want to do it. It's not always like that. It sometimes it's a wave effect, if you will. There's times when it's really bad, and there's other times not so much, right? But as I've gotten older, those waves, those peaks and valleys are much closer together. And there was times whenever in my early 20s, up until my early mid 30s, where there was a huge dip that lasted for many years. There was no issue. And then it came back up again. And so now those peaks and valleys are much closer. Yeah, probably, there's things I can do to definitely fix that. Obviously go to a counselor, speak to them, talk to them. There's medicine that you can take. There's a lot of things that you can definitely do. I'm one of those people, similar to my cholinergic urticaria, which I talk about. There's not a lot that you can do about CU in terms of medicine, really. Just got to manage and deal with it. I tell people that, like, if you're looking for a quick fix, it's not going to happen. It may go away on its own. It may not. Your body is going to do what it's going to do. And that's similar to the social anxiety. There's people you can talk to help you navigate through it. There's medicine you can take. Some people are for that. Some people are against it. Some people try their own exercises. And even myself, I go purposefully and talk to people just because, right? The other day, some people were leaving out the building and they were trying to go into another section of the building. I'm like, currently there's nothing over on that side. I said, but there's talk about having more stores and more shops in the next few months. So the lady's like, oh, cool, thanks. Just out of the blue, I offered some information. And I'm sure they were like, thanks for telling us something that we didn't ask you about, but cool, right? And maybe not. Maybe they were thinking, cool, thanks for the information. But to me, in my head, I'm like, why did I just do that? Why did I just say that? Why did I, like, what? Why did I do that? For Noelle, she doesn't care. We had this conversation. Noelle doesn't care if Noelle does something and embarrasses herself and people say, gosh, she's so weird, or for her, she'll think about it for a second and be like, yeah, I guess they thought they weren't falling for that, or they didn't like that, or they thought I was weird. 5 minutes later, she'll do it again. And she'll think, yeah, they probably think I'm weird, but 5 minutes later, she'll do it again. Like, it doesn't stop her because that's not her personality. Her personality is whatever. Me, it's not so much that I care about what people think necessarily. It's just the whole aspect of getting there to the point of having a conversation with someone that I don't know or being involved in a situation. It's just one of those things. I don't like social interactions too much. A lot of times people are like, hey man, let's go do such and such. Sure, let's do that. But it's like, not really. I don't really want to do that. Right? It's nothing against them. It's just I don't like that so much. I don't like the interactions. There's a lot of people I think that suffer from social anxiety. And they say, well, I'm an introvert. Maybe so. But I think it's a little bit deeper than that. Anyhow, let me decline Noel. Hopefully I don't drop my phone. Anyhow, I want to put a face on this because there are young black men who struggle from many different things in terms of just various different mental issues, things like that. And it's okay, man. It's completely okay. I'm still successful. I'm more successful now than I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm actually having more issues with social anxiety today than I ever have in my entire life. She keeps calling. I'm having more of that now, but I'm by far more successful. So you can work your way through it, but it's don't give up on it, right? You can work your way through it, and it's completely normal to be this way. This is normal. Right? It's completely okay. But I want people to understand that, yes, go and speak to a counselor. That's what they're there for. That's what they do. Talk to them. Don't let this control your life. Like I told people about CU, don't let something like that prevent you from doing things. This is one of those things where you have to work at it. I just have to work a little bit harder than Noelle, for example, in order to just present myself. She does it a lot more effortlessly. And she can do it on time every single time. She may have a few times where she's a little bit nervous. She's just nervous about, do I know enough information, whatever. That's not me. I way over prepare myself. For me, it's not so much the crowd I have to present myself to. That doesn't bother me as much. I don't think people who don't struggle through this, they don't get it. It doesn't make sense. When I think about it, it doesn't make sense. A crowd of people, whether it's 1,000 people, 100 people, or 10,000 people, it's all the same to me. It doesn't matter. Like I can talk to a big group of people, right? Not an issue. It's more or less just getting to the damn stage. Getting out of the house to get there. That's the issue. But anyhow, tell me what your thoughts are. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. Young black men, it's okay to have any sort of mental struggles. Counseling is very, very cool. Getting help is very, very cool. Be sure to join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.